Ethan had never imagined the day would come when an alien ship would land at his front door. He'd read about it, heard stories, and even seen the news reports of other colonies experiencing strange visitors. But those were all far away, in distant regions of space where humanity's reach barely extended. His home, nestled on the outskirts of a quiet colony, was supposed to be a place of peace, away from the chaos of the wider universe. The morning started like any other. The sun had barely risen, and Ethan was already at the small workbench in his cabin, trying to fix the old plasma generator that powered his home. He preferred this solitude, the quiet hum of machinery, and the comfort of his thoughts as he worked. But today, something felt different. A subtle vibration beneath his feet caught his attention. It wasn't the usual buzz of the machines. This was something deeper, something more ominous. Stepping outside, Ethan's breath caught in his throat. Above him, the sky had darkened, as if a cloud was blocking out the sun. But this wasn't a natural cloud. It was a ship, a massive, sleek craft hovering silently just above the ground. The ship's surface shimmered in the early light, its metallic surface reflecting the dim glow of the distant stars. Ethan stood frozen for a moment, unsure whether this was real or a figment of his overactive imagination. He had heard rumors of alien visitors, but to see one firsthand, it was a shock beyond measure. He had trained for battle, fought in wars across different planets, but none of that preparation could have prepared him for this. There was no fight here, no reason for his weapon or armor. Just an alien presence, uninvited and powerful. As the ship lowered closer to the ground, Ethan instinctively took a step back, ready to retreat into his cabin. But before he could turn, the door of the ship opened, a ramp extended, and a figure emerged, stepping down with grace and purpose. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. The alien woman was tall, with a presence that seemed to bend the very air around her. Her skin was a smooth, shimmering shade of violet, and her eyes, large and almost black, stared intently at him. She wore a flowing silver garment that seemed to catch the light in ways that defied normal physics. Her hair, long and dark, trailed behind her like liquid silk. Every movement she made was deliberate, filled with an unnatural poise that Ethan could not quite comprehend. She was beautiful, in a way that was both terrifying and captivating. There was no mistaking her alien nature. She was nothing like any human he had ever met. Yet, there was something about her that seemed familiar. It wasn't just her physical appearance, but the way she looked at him. There was an intelligence in those eyes, an understanding of something far greater than himself. "Are you the one called Ethan?" she asked, her voice soft, but carrying an air of authority that made him stand straighter. Ethan nodded slowly, still trying to process what was happening. "Yes, that's me." "But, who are you?" "What do you want?" The alien woman tilted her head slightly, as if considering his question.
"I am Illyra," she said simply, "and I have come for a meeting." Ethan blinked, his mind racing.
A meeting? With who? And why him? Before he could speak, Illyra took a step forward, her presence filling the space between them. "Our daughter wished to meet you," she said softly, her words carrying an odd weight, as though they were laden with meaning. Ethan froze. His hand instinctively went to the side of the door, gripping the frame for support. His mind struggled to make sense of her words. Daughter? He looked at the ship behind her, then back at Illyra. He had heard rumors of alien species and their strange customs, but none of them mentioned anything about daughters. He wasn't sure what he was expecting, but this wasn't it. "I don't understand," he said, his voice tight with confusion. "Who is your daughter?" "What does she have to do with me?" Illyra's eyes softened slightly as though she recognized the confusion in his gaze. "She is the reason we are here," Illyra replied. "She has seen you in her dreams." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. Dreams? What was she talking about? He didn't believe in alien prophecies or mystical visions. At least, he hadn't until this moment. "Come," Alira said, gesturing for him to follow. "She is waiting for you inside." The man hesitated for a moment, his instincts screaming at him to run, to lock the door, and to forget this encounter ever happened. But something about the calm certainty in Alira's voice made him hesitate. He didn't feel in danger. Not yet, anyway. There was something peaceful about her presence, something that calmed his racing thoughts. Reluctantly, Ethan stepped forward, crossing the threshold of his own door, and following Alira up the ramp into the alien ship. Inside, the ship was far different than anything Ethan could have imagined. The walls seemed to pulse with a soft, ethereal light, and the air felt warm, almost alive. The technology around him was advanced beyond anything humanity had ever achieved, sleek and sophisticated, with strange symbols etched into every surface. As they walked deeper into the ship, Alira led him to a small chamber. Inside, a young girl stood by the window, her back to them. She was slightly shorter than Ethan, but there was an undeniable presence about her. Her long, flowing hair was silver, and her skin glowed with an inner light that seemed to come from within her, not from the environment around her. She turned as they entered, and Ethan's breath caught in his throat. Her eyes were a deep, almost impossibly dark shade of purple, like the night sky just before the stars appeared. But there was no coldness in her gaze, only curiosity and a strange, ancient wisdom. "You're Ethan," the girl said softly, her voice high and clear. "I've seen you in my dreams." Ethan could hardly believe what he was hearing. He had no idea who this child was or what she wanted from him. But there was something unsettling about her words, something that made him feel as though he were caught in a web he didn't understand. Before he could say anything, the girl spoke again, her voice gentle but filled with a quiet force. "My name is Siora, and I've been waiting for you." Ethan stared at the young alien girl, Siora, who stood before him with eyes that seemed to pierce straight into his soul. The soft glow of her skin made her look almost otherworldly, and the deep purple hue of her eyes gave off an air of mystery that unsettled him. He couldn't understand how this child had been part of his dreams. How had she seen him? What did it mean? The silence stretched between them for what felt like an eternity. Ethan was frozen in place, trying to make sense of the words that had just come from Siora's lips. "I've been waiting for you." Siora's gaze softened, and she took a small step forward. "I know this is confusing," she said, her voice soothing.
"But you're part of something much bigger than yourself." Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine. "Bigger than me?" he echoed, his mind trying to catch up with the situation.
"How could I be a part of anything like that? I'm just a man who fixes things." I'm not important." Siora shook her head slowly, her silver hair falling gracefully over her shoulders. "You have no idea how important you are," she whispered, almost as though to herself. "The galaxy has been watching you, Ethan. Watching humanity." The man felt a lump form in his throat, and he instinctively took a step back. The tension in the room was palpable. "The galaxy?" he repeated. "What do you mean? What's going on here?" Before Siora could answer, Alira stepped forward. "You must forgive her," she said. "She speaks of things much larger than you are used to. You are not meant to understand all at once." Ethan turned his gaze to Alira, still struggling to comprehend what was unfolding. "But why me? Why bring me into this? I'm just one man on the edge of a colony. I have nothing to do with the fate of a galaxy." "You are wrong," Alira replied. Her voice was calm, yet there was an undeniable force behind it. "You are part of a greater plan, a plan that began long before you were born." Ethan's mind spun. "A plan," he echoed, trying to grasp her meaning. "What kind of plan? The plan of the stars?" Alira said, her gaze steady. The galaxy has always been a place of balance, but balance is threatened now. It has been for a long time. Ethan was silent for a long moment, absorbing her words. Balance? He muttered. And what does that have to do with me? Ciora stepped closer to him, her eyes filled with something unspoken. You've been chosen, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Not by us, by something older, something far greater than either of us. Ethan's heart raced. This was too much. Too much to process in one breath. He felt like he was suffocating under the weight of it all. I don't understand, he said, his voice cracking. How could I be chosen? I'm not a leader. I'm not a hero. I'm just me. Alira placed a hand gently on his shoulder, and for the first time Ethan felt the weight of the universe in that simple touch. That is the key, she said softly. You are human, and that makes you the perfect candidate for what must come. The words didn't make sense to him. The idea that humanity was involved in something that could affect the entire galaxy was beyond his comprehension. But there was something in Alira's gaze that told him this wasn't just some elaborate fantasy. She believed what she was saying. You felt it too, Alira continued, haven't you? The strange pull, the sense that something is wrong, the feeling that your life is about to change in ways you can't control. Ethan didn't answer right away. He had felt something, a sense of unease that had followed him for months, a nagging feeling that he couldn't shake. But it was only recently that it had grown stronger. It was as if the universe was tugging at him, calling him to something, to some purpose he couldn't yet understand. I've felt it, Ethan admitted, his voice low. But I didn't know what it was. I thought maybe it was just me, losing my mind out here in the middle of nowhere.
Alira nodded solemnly. It is not just you.
There are others who feel it too, scattered throughout the galaxy, all waiting, and now you are one of them. A chill ran down Ethan's spine, and for the first time he felt the full weight of what he was being asked to understand. What am I supposed to do? He asked, his voice trembling. What do you want from me? You must help us stop the coming war, Ciora said, her voice full of resolve.
It is the only way to protect everything.
The war? Ethan repeated. What war? What's happening? The war that is already being fought in the shadows, Alira replied. The factions in the galaxy, both known and unknown, have been moving for centuries, positioning themselves for a conflict that could destroy everything. Humanity is the key to stopping it. Not with weapons, but with something far more powerful. Ethan shook his head in confusion. I don't understand. What power could I have? I'm just a man who fixes things. Ciora's gaze softened. You have the power to unite, she said.
The power of humanity, the one thing the galaxy has never understood, the one thing they fear most.
Unity! Ethan blinked, processing her words.
Unity? He repeated. But we're divided. We're not unified. There are wars, poverty, hatred. Humanity isn't united. Not by a long shot. That's what makes you powerful, Alira said, her voice firm. You have the ability to bring people together, not just through force, but through compassion, through understanding. The galaxy has seen humanity's potential, and they fear it. They fear what you could become if you ever truly united. Ethan couldn't believe what he was hearing. The fate of the galaxy, of the universe, resting on the shoulders of someone like him? It was impossible. Yet, the look in Ciora's eyes made him think there was more truth to this than he wanted to admit. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. But how do I do that? How do I unite humanity when we're so far apart? You'll know when the time comes, Alira said, her tone filled with quiet confidence.
The path will be clear, and you will not be alone.
You will have allies. Ethan felt a pang of uncertainty deep in his chest. What if I fail? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. You won't? Ciora said, her voice filled with conviction. Because you are not alone. The words hung in the air like a promise, and for the first time in his life, Ethan felt the weight of something far greater than himself. His life had been ordinary. He had never sought greatness. But now, it seemed that greatness had found him. As he looked at Elira and Ciora, he knew one thing for certain. His life would never be the same. And whether he was ready for it or not, the galaxy was waiting for him to make his move.